Hey guys, what's going on? Sincere here with whoissincere.com, Anon Radio Live, and the All Rights Matter show. I want to bring you a little bit of information that I've been meaning to share out, but I've been covering the Oregon situation, so this is hitting a little bit closer to home here in Chattanooga where I live at. As you all know, there was a shooting last year that one lone guy, he shot at a recruitment center and he killed 5 people. Now, I watched that event. I was actually home that day, just miles from the shooting. I watched that event unfold live on television, and I watched WRCB TV, which is an NBC affiliate, cover it live. And they had a reporter at a local hospital in the area, and the first person that was taken to the hospital was this guy, and that was Sgt Demonte Cheeley. Now, Sgt. Cheeley just recently received a Purple Heart back in January. And the reason why this is so significant is because throughout all of the national media, throughout Joe Biden coming here, the vice president, throughout all the fundraising that has happened, no one has discussed this African American young sergeant that was the first to be wounded. And WRCB actually, they reported it, when he arrived at the hospital, because it was at that given time, it was the only shooting in the area. So there was no other shooting in the area, and he was a gunshot victim arriving at the hospital. So they put 2 and 2 together that this young man, on air, this was live on air, that this young man was possibly shot at the recruiting center. After this was aired live, they never spoke of it again until a recent article that just came out. And I'm going to go ahead and show you that article here. And this is on WRCB TV. Marine recruiter Sgt. Demonte Cheeley receives Purple Heart. Now, it was in a private ceremony. Pretty much just a few people there. There you go. And it clearly says it was for the July 16th, 2015 terrorist attacks in Chattanooga. He was the first Marine to be wounded. He suffered a gunshot wound to his leg when the shooter opened fire on the Armed Forces Career Center off of Lee Highway. Now, and I've went to the memorial site, there at the location. I also went to the field, and we did a huge ribbon in the middle of one of the stadiums out here. There's been several. I went to a concert here as well where they had a huge fundraising concert where Samuel L. Jackson came out here. So, I'm a military veteran, so I pay attention to all of this stuff, and I wanted to see, what was the climate like in this community, because I'm also new here. So these people here in Chattanooga, they support the military in a very, very big way. And that's another part of the reason why I was surprised to not hear anyone nationally mention his name. This is kind of like something that we just know here in Chattanooga. This is something that's not been talked about throughout national media anywhere. So I find that highly suspicious, and I just don't know how they were able to do it, how they were able to keep his name out of the media the whole time. And I kept saying it, to people around here, and I posted it. I said, I wonder whatever happened to the black guy that got shot, by the terrorist, pretty much, or who they've labeled as a terrorist. Now, I never received an answer for that. I could never find who the guy was, that actually got shot and survived. So it all went to the Fallen Five, and that's what, the national media focused on. That's what, the president and his team focused on, which would be, the president, Joe Biden, and everybody else. So when they talk about their gun control policies and stuff, and they never actually mention, the guy that actually got shot by this, quote unquote terrorist suspect, and survived. And he was given a Purple Heart. So I want to go back over here to this picture. This lady in this picture that he's pictured here with at the Lee Highway Center, this lady is actually an eyewitness that was sitting in a car and watched the shooter, through the situation. So she was actually there. She saw all of this unfold, and that's the significance of that picture. And there's, him there with a fellow Marineman. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, that Sgt Demonte Cheeley received the Purple Heart. He survived the Chattanooga shooting, and our government and President Obama and our media, they don't care about the heroes that are alive. They care about creating policies off of the victims that are no longer here with us. If it was up to them, and I'd hate to say this, Sergeant Cheeley wouldn't be alive. So, but the fact of the matter, he is. He's had pretty much zero airtime, regarding the incident, and his life moves on, kind of regular, just to be honest with you. So, he's been interviewed by the Times Free Press out here in Chattanooga, and by WRCB TV. I'll leave a link for that below. But this is, I'll go a little bit deeper real quick. This is also a part of what happens when these situations start to look more like psyops and more like cover-ups. And I keep talking about this with the shooters that we're seeing. These shooters are not, these shooting situations are not normal. Now, it's just like vaccinations and autism and SIDS and all that stuff. One thing is linked to the other. So when we look at all these shooting situations that people are going on, back in the day, and this may outdate some of you that are out there, but back in the day there was fierce conversation and a huge topic, huge discussions on the topic of, are these shootings perhaps linked to the video game violence that children are seeing, because the shootings that had occurred back then. And this was a fierce topic that was talked about at one time. It is no longer talked about. Now, this is the thing that you have to realize, is the people that engineer these games, the corporations and the minds that are behind these games, these are very dark entities, very dark people. And some of the best and brightest minds of, these game creators and these people that can create media like that, they actually work for the government. Now, if you know that they work for the government, if you know that they can create things that can play with your mind, okay, and they have military programs that can play with your mind, that can program you in certain ways, why are we not having the conversation about whether these people that are shooting up, churches, shooting up schools, the school shootings that are actually real, barring Sandy Hook, of course, and these other incidents, why are we not talking about the fact that they could be actually triggered? No one is having that discussion. And I firmly believe that a lot of these shootings, these are triggered events, that somebody is playing with the minds of these people and actually triggering these things to happen. So it's not that hard to play with the minds of Americans, especially if they have weak minds. For instance, the guy that supposedly snapped and shot the reporter last year. You have situations happening like this where you hear the narrative of the person stayed in their apartment and they were always on the computer. You hear the guy that shot up the church and, recently last year, the same narrative. He's always on his computer. They were always talking to people on their computer. But yet we never get the media to tell us who they're talking to. We never get any kind of released documents of their conversations with these people, whoever they're talking to in these chat lines or these chat rooms, I should say, or on these platforms. So I think that's very interesting that it's missing from the narrative, and I believe that this narrative, that because of it being missing, it's purposely missing, and it's a plan that's actually in place, and certain people are literally being targeted, and then they're being triggered, and once they're triggered, an event happens, and once an event happens, that gives more precedence to passing man-made laws that restrict our constitutional God-given rights. So you have to see the deception and the layers of deception that are being played by the enemy that oppresses us all. We have to see this. And I truly believe that until we start getting to this conversation, of whether these people are triggered or not, are being triggered, we're not going to figure this out. I believe that's really the key to this. What do we all hold in our hands? Smartphones. What do we all, have in our houses? Computers, TVs. So we're very digitally connected right now, and especially with this broad internet. And it's very easy to infiltrate and brainwash the minds of people. That's why you don't see, hypnosis done on TV. It's not allowed to be done on TV because there are a lot of weak minds out there that can literally be hypnotized with just a few movements. So I believe that a lot of these people, I don't know what's going on, how they're being triggered, but they're being contacted, triggered, and they're creating these events that, out of the clear blue, their friends are like, wait, what the hell happened? I knew he had started regressing a while ago, but I never saw this coming. It's always a surprise, so we have to start talking about that. But again, Sgt Demonte Cheeley, which would be a living hero, Purple Heart, recipient now. And yet there's no conversation, no national media about him, and it's all about the fallen five. And, God rest their souls. They were, what I would consider fellow brothers, like I said, with me being a veteran. But I want to meet this man right here who actually survived. I'd like to interview him. I'd like to talk to him. I'd like to talk to that lady right there that actually, saw the situation unfold with her own eyes. So a lot of questions still about the whole situation, but I believe that, we'll never get those answers from federal authorities about the triggering of these people, whether, and I'll just leave it open-ended like this. I'm not saying that the federal authorities or that the government is actually triggering these people. It could be, but it can also be someone else triggering these people. You got to understand there's some wickedly smart people out here. These people take courses like, courses to learn hypnosis. So, hypnotherapy and stuff like that. These things are very real. The mind is it can be a playground and it can be a battlefield. So it all depends on whose eyes are perceiving it, and a lot of these people seeking to cause damage, they're using it as their battlefield, and they're waging war on the minds of people. And I believe that certain folks are literally being triggered to create these events. So we need to look into that a little bit more. Hats off to Sergeant here for, receiving his Purple Heart, and for not really standing up and saying, hey, you guys forgot about me. He's not one of those type of guys, and based on his comments, he didn't seem, he doesn't want to really get into it too much. But I just think it's funny how the media just completely didn't focus on him at all. Whether he wants to comment or not is a different thing. Whether the media focuses on him at all or not is another thing. And the way that this unfolded for really the Times Free Press in Chattanooga, WRCB, really the only people that have genuinely kind of talked to him, it's shocking to me. It's really shocking to me. So, just some information for you guys, but Purple Heart recipient. He's alive. He's well. Sgt Demonte Cheeley. Stay alert. Stay alive.